In this video, I'm going to show you the 6 quickest losses of your favorite grandmasters and other chess experts. Hey guys, in today's video, I just want to give you a little bit of hope, showing you that even your favorite grandmasters do blunder in real life. Yes, you are not the only one who blunders in chess. I mean, even grandmasters like Magnus, Carlsen, Hikaru, Fabi, Alireza have lost before in less than 10 moves. So the point of this video is not really to laugh at these chess geniuses who are even way better than me, but just to give you some hope. So to start with, this game was played on Lichess between Magnus Carlsen and GM Dropstone somewhere in 2021, I guess. And believe it or not, Magnus Carlsen lost in 8 moves. Let's see how the game went. E4. Carlsen responded with the Caro-Kann defense. D4 was played, then D5, Knight C3, kind of the classical variation, which invites the Tata core main line that happened in the game. This is the Tata core variation which Magnus Carlsen played. So far so good, but after his opponent played Bishop D3, Carlsen pre-moved Bishop D6. And on the 7th move, White played Queen H5, and guess what? Carlsen had already pre-moved castle shot, and this is how the former world champion lost in 8 moves. Anyway, so now you know that even our chess idols do blunder. But anyways, this was the case of pre-moves. If this is not convincing, let me show you a serious OTB match where Carlsen lost to Nepo in less than 8 moves. Technically speaking, this is a game that was played in 2020 April in a serious match. Magnus had white pieces and he started with E4 because this is the only opening that he knows. And then Nepo responded with C5, the Sicilian defense. Knight F3 was played, then D6, D4 by Magnus, CD, Knight takes, Knight F6, attacking the E4 pawn, which Magnus Carlsen ignored by going for the Ginsburg gambit, which is one of my favorite gambits against the Sicilian defense. So the whole idea of the Ginsburg is if knight takes on E4, which Nepo did, by the way, now you go bishop takes F7 check, and after king takes, you then get back your piece like this. Pap, if pawn to E6, blocking the check, you just grab the knight, leaving black with a weird position. Again, after bishop c4 and knight takes e4, the move that Nepo played, instead of sacrificing right away, the other idea is to go queen h5, which Magnus played in the game, intending to give a check on f7. And the way we play this is, after pawn to e6, the move that Nepo played, you first of all go bishop b5 check, so that if black blocks with the bishop, this is when you take on e6 with your knight, knowing black can't take due to this queen. And since the knight is attacking the queen, if black plays queen a5 check, which is the top played move in the Lichess database, you now go bishop d2 attacking the queen. And if black takes, this is when you capture the bishop with check, and on the next move grab a free queen. I believe this is what Magnus Carlsen had prepared, but you see, after Nepo played pawn to e6, Magnus forgot to play bishop b5, or probably he just forgot the line, and instead started with knight takes e6, a terrible blunder, which Nepo saw immediately. Why was this a blunder? Because Nepo realized that he had an intermediate move, queen e7 after bishop takes. After Magnus took, Nepo played queen e7, and then look at this discovery. This is what Magnus had missed. Of course, he tried to play a desperado move, bishop takes f7, but Nepo just took back with the queen, and after queen e2, Nepo played queen e7. I mean, this was just losing for Magnus, and Nepo ended up winning the game from here. I mean, Magnus just lost a free piece in the opening stage on move number 8, something you don't expect to see. Anyway, moving on, here is another game where our dear Hikaru lost to a 2900 international master in less than 10 moves. Hikaru started with e4, then his international master opponent responded with e5, knight c3, knight f6, pawn to f4, then pawn to d5. Hikaru took on d5, and then his opponent took on f4. It was at this point where Hikaru started pre-moving, beginning with the move queen f3, and then his opponent played bishop d6. Then Hikaru pre-moved bishop c4 once again, and by the time his opponent played bishop g4, he had already pre-moved knight ge2. You see, sometimes this is how you punish pre-movers, because when somebody is pre-moving, obviously they kind of underrate either your opening or yourself. So black took the queen, and after gf, Hikaru just resigned after pawn to d4 and bishop takes c1. 10 moves lost. To make it worse, this happened during Hikaru's live stream on Twitch, while a lot of people were watching. Anyway, now we look at the most recent match that happened between Fabiano Caruana and Alireza Firouzja. If I'm not mistaken, this happened on July 19th, 2024, and it was a serious match played during the Champions Chess Tour Crunch Labs Masters. So you see the game ended exactly in 9 moves. Caruana had white pieces and he started with c4, the English opening, and then Alireza responded with c6, my favorite opening response to the English. I guess the idea is just to transpose the game back to the Queen's Gambit declined or the semi-Slav. Knight f3 was played and then d5. If white plays d4, this transposes back to the Slav defense after knight f6. But Caruana played pawn to g3, continuing with the English. Bishop g4 was played by Alireza, and then knight e5, attacking the bishop. Anyway, bishop f5 was played, then queen b3 is what Caruana played, attacking the b7 pawn. Just one of the moves that you can play in this variation, by the way. So far so good. Alireza played queen b6 in this position, and then cd, queen takes, ab, all theoretical moves up to this point. And then on move number 7, Alireza played bishop e4, attacking the rook. But this is kind of a mistake in this English variation, which Caruana realized immediately by sacrificing the rook. I hope he sensed that there is something that Alireza doesn't know in this line. And true to Fabi's thoughts, Alireza took the rook on move number 8. After this, Caruana played one move that made Alireza to resign. So this is just an old trap that I think I covered in one of my old videos. That's why you have all the reasons to subscribe to this channel. Caruana played rook takes a7, attacking the rook, and then Alireza resigned, realizing there was nothing he could do. He was going to lose all these pieces, by the way. For example, if rook takes, now Caruana was going to play c7 and end up promoting to a donkey if he wanted. And say if knight takes was played, Caruana would have captured on a8, I guess. And then after knight d8, only move, I guess Caruana would have taken on d8, and after king takes, knight takes f7, winning the other rook. And say if bishop takes was played, still there was going to be rook takes a8 and next winning the knight. This is why Alireza resigned after rook takes a7 by Caruana. So you see the game ended exactly in 9 moves. Anyway, moving on to game number 4. This is one famous game that was played between Alonso Zapata and the one and only Vishy Anand, former world chess champion, very talented and humble player. I should say one of my role models in chess. Vishy lost in 6 moves. Can you imagine? Anyway, Vishy had black pieces and white started with e4. He played e5, knight f3, knight f6, Vishy played. So this is the Russian game, or the so-called Petrov defense. After knight takes e5, Vishy played the correct move d6, chasing the knight away, and after knight f3, he correctly took back on e4 with his knight, and then after knight c3, everyone was expecting Vishy to take on c3, which is the main move. But you see, sometimes even super grandmasters get tired, and at times just get lost in their calculations. For some reason, Vishy played bishop f5, which was a losing mistake right on move 5. Why was this a losing mistake? Because white had queen e2, which he found on the board. And after this move, believe it or not, Vishy resigned because he noticed there was no way he was going to rescue his knight. Vishy Anand resigned. This was an over-the-board game, which was serious, by the way. I think it was played in 1988. Well, the point is, even if you play queen e7, white can just play knight d5 attacking your queen, and you have to guard your c7 pawn, otherwise you're going to lose more material. If queen d8 or queen d7, white was just simply going to play pawn to d3 and win the knight. And that's why Vishy resigned on move number 6. Moving on to game number 5, that was played between GM Andrei In and Sergei Kajakin, a super GM, as you already know. Sergei lost this game in 10 moves. So you can see a whole super GM losing a game of chess in 10 moves. Yet you are there, busy crying and blaming the devil for losing a chess. My God. Carlsen had black pieces, by the way, and his opponent Andre Hin started with c4, the English opening that we saw in the Caruana's game. Carlsen responded with the king's English variation. Knight c3 was played, then knight c6, all going well, knight f3, and then Carlsen played pawn to g6, because what else? It was at this point when Andre Hin realized he could play pawn to d4, the main line that leads to some crazy tactics. If you don't know, Carlsen took on d4, and then knight d5 was played. For what? Watch. After bishop g7, white played bishop g5, attacking the queen, and then Carlsen blocked with his king's knight. He had to block with his queen's knight, which is the correct line. And this is why chess is very difficult, you guys. At times you don't know which piece to lift. But anyways, Carlsen blocked with his king's knight, which was a blunder, an instant blunder due to knight takes d4. And now we see the reason why, because Andre Hin was just one move away from capturing on c6 and then taking on e7 and later on the queen, which is why Carlsen had to block that bishop attack with his queen's knight so that knight takes d4 doesn't come with a threat. Out of everything Carlsen could have done, such as knight takes d4 or pawn to f6, he chose to play a normal looking move, bishop takes d4, which was a losing mistake due to the next move that his opponent Andre Hin played after a few minutes. Queen takes d4, sacrificing the whole madam, and the whole point was if knight takes d4, there was going to be a mate in 2 like this, pap, and bishop h6 checkmate, stopped by the knight, by the way, which is why after queen takes d4 happened, Carlsen realized hell right now. He just castled short, and then Andre Hin played knight f6 check, and after king h8, he played knight g4 discovery check, and Carlsen resigned exactly in 10 moves, because after all, this was going to be checkmate. For example, if king g8, there is knight h6 checkmate. And say if black played pawn to f6, there was going to be bishop takes f6, and after king g8, again knight h6 checkmate. Or say after rook takes f6, I guess white was going to take with the queen, and after this, pap, checkmate. And this is why Carlsen resigned in 10 moves. You see this trap? It reminds me of one game between our very own international master Eric Rosen and FIDE master Carlsen on Lichess, by the way, which is our last game for today. Why have I included this? Because you see, the black player was the FIDE master, not your friend at all. Eric had white pieces and he started with the Ruy Lopez with bishop b5, and after pawn to a6, he played bishop a4, and then his FIDE master opponent played the Cosio defense with knight ge7, intending to flanquero his dark squared bishop and castle short on the next move. But Eric responded with knight c3, a normal move. After pawn to g6, this is when Eric remembered the Carlsen game where Andre Hin played pawn to d4. This is what Eric did, by the way. Similar to the previous game, black took on d4 and then Eric played knight d5. And the whole point was if knight takes, maybe he was going to win the d4 pawn back with tempo, but this didn't happen in the game. After knight d5, black simply played bishop g7, intending to castle short, because what else? And then Eric played bishop g5, pinning the knight to the queen, just like we saw in the previous game. And by this time, you can see Eric is just one move away from capturing the c6 knight and then winning the queen as highlighted on the board, which is why his opponent played b5, trying to stop this idea. But guess what? Eric realized that he didn't even have to rescue the light squared bishop, but to take on d4 with the knight. Again, just like in the previous game, Eric's opponent took on d4, and then what did we see? Eric sacrificed his queen. And the idea was still the same. If knight takes, Eric was going to deliver this mate into, as we saw previously. Anyway, the game ended in 14 moves, and you can see how the FIDE master blundered in less than 10 moves again. Ladies and gentlemen, this is all for today. I hope you enjoyed watching this, and above all, I guess you now have some hope for a better tomorrow, and now you know that even our chess gods do blunder, but not every time. And I'm not encouraging you guys to keep on blundering or making mistakes. Nevertheless, this should give you some hope, because now you know that you are not the worst player player in the world. Right, now time for you to go and check out my new E5 defense course, which I have also linked in the comment section down below. And I'm glad to say so far it has received a lot of attention and people are getting it like crazy. So it's an opening response that you try against White's E4 opening. You're going to learn how to play against the Scotch, the Royal Pace, the Bishop's opening, 3 Knights opening, the 4 Knights game, the Vienna game, even the Italian game. So it's the complete E5 defense course that I just launched with my team. You better go and check it out. Thank you so much for watching this video. Until next time, have a wonderful day. Bye bye.